Welcome to the Cup of Joe Show, the podcast where Senator Joseph Cryan talks about the latest in New Jersey's 20th Legislative District. This week's guest, Barbara La Mort.
Hi, everybody. This is Senator Joe Cryan, and we're thrilled that you take a moment and join us for another Cup of Joe podcast. It is my absolute honor and privilege today to speak to Barbara La Mort, one of the most important and influential people, and yes, women, in the Township of Union. Now, Barbara, we're here today a little bit because it's Women's History Month here in March. Right? And for folks that don't realize, Women's History Month began in 1980, but was officially recognized in 1987. So we get a chance to celebrate important milestones, recognition, and contributions that women have created, not only here in the Township of Union or the 20th District, but throughout the state and the country. I am exceptionally honored to have the opportunity to speak with you today, and welcome.
Thank you very much, Joe.
Okay. So as we open up and just kind of have a conversation, can we talk to people a little bit about you? You're active in so many groups and so much of a career, and I believe you're a lifelong resident of Union as well.
Pretty much since I was 2 years old.
To account. Okay. So talk to me a little bit about growing. Why don't we begin at the beginning? Talk to me a little bit about growing up in Union, what Union was like, and some of the changes that you've witnessed over time.
Okay. I went to Livingston School, and I could walk to school across Morris Avenue. We had Officer Joe, who was a patrol officer on his motorcycle, and he would cross us from Morris Avenue to Balsam Way, which leads up to the Livingston School playground. My mother was insistent that we come home for lunch, except if it was pouring rain. So I was jealous at the time of the children who got to eat in the school cafeteria every day. But now I know that that was how she showed that she loved us. Then I went to Kiwami Middle School. It was Kiwami Junior High at the time. And we crossed Morris Avenue without Officer Joe, went through the Kiwami Swamp, which is a path along the suburban golf course to the back parking lot of Kiwami. I transferred when I was in 8th grade to Benedictine Academy in Elizabeth, which has now closed. Then I went to the College of St. Elizabeth in Convent Station.
St. E's in those days was all girls?
Yes, it was.
Okay. Things change.
Right.
Okay.
And just talking about like walking to school, there was a deli on the corner of Lorraine and Morris called Yides, and my father would send me there. I don't even know how young I was, to buy him a pack of cigarettes and a loaf of Italian bread. Also, there was a storefront library of the Union Public Library, a branch in one of the storefronts on that same block as Yides. And in the summer, I would go to the library and sit on the floor and just read. And I don't think too many people send their grammar school age children across a busy road like that, just crossing at the light at Colonial Avenue. There was a drugstore on the corner of Colonial Avenue where there is now a dry cleaner, and you could buy a vanilla soda for 5 cents. It sounds like it was ancient history, but it was during my lifetime.
Yeah. Was that the Townley Library in those days? Is that what they called it?
Yes.
Okay. I had a chance to read. There's a great story when I was in the Assembly. The author of Game of Thrones, George E.E. Martin, gave this great speech. He grew up in Bayonne. People don't realize that.
Okay.
And he would talk about when he was in 4th and 5th and 6th grade. And he came to the Assembly and said this. He said, look, my dad didn't like to drink and drive, so we didn't drive a lot, right? Which I always remembered the line. And he said, but I got to see the whole world through the Bayonne Library, which was down the street. We forget today and the importance of libraries and what they can do for an imagination and take folks.
Right.
So in your career after growing up, you went into, I believe, a couple different fields. Is that correct?
Yes. I started in education. I taught for 4 years at Union High School, social studies and English. I had students it was only a 3-year high school at the time, so I did teach 10th, 11th, and 12th graders. Then I took quite a few years off to raise my children until they were fully in school. Then I went to work. I thought I'd have a career change. I went to work at an office in Summit for a company called LR Communications, and that was right before computers and word processing became a thing. So the company had clients like executives at AT&T, and we would edit their letters because their superiors realized that they weren't very good at written communication. So it was teaching in a form, and then the executives had to do presentations for their coworkers, so we would coach them on public speaking skills. But then, because my children were at home after school with a babysitter, it just wasn't working. So after 4 years, I went back to teaching, and I then taught English and social studies again, but this time at Kiwami. It was a junior high when I first started, and then it became a middle school.
So I'm curious, when you did the 4 years in the private sector, were there many women in those leadership positions?
No, in fact, there were a couple, but obviously predominantly it was men.
Did the men underestimate you a little bit?
No, because I think I had the attitude of a teacher, so they just sensed that, and everything was fine. There was no question that they didn't respect what I was suggesting to them, and they were only suggestions.
Okay, so you've essentially grown up in Union. You've developed your professional career. Your educational achievements have been met. And who were there women that influenced you in that part of the process?
Definitely my grandmother. She was widowed at a very young age with 4 children. So she was, even though it was the 1930s and it was during the Depression, no aid for families at all, she was forced to go to work. She was a seamstress. So, I mean, she never said, Barbara, this is what I did, but it was just part of our family heritage, so that I knew that she worked and raised her sons very successfully. 2 of my aunts it was called secretaries then, what we would call administrative assistants now. They were both single, but they instilled in my sisters and me that women can be successful in business. My one aunt worked for Western Electric, which I don't even know if that company exists anymore, and the other aunt worked for a private company in Newark. And sometimes in the summers, the next sister in line and I would help her at her office.
So you had strong women in your family life that
Yes.
they were able to develop that confidence with you that I don't mind saying you carry to this day.
Oh, thanks.
It's a real compliment. And that was part of the growing up process, even though maybe it quite wasn't in vogue in those days?
Right. But also, I have to say that my father was a big influence because I have 5 brothers and sisters, and he did not distinguish between, well, only the boys are going to be able to do whatever they want. It was just a given. It was like intuition that we could do whatever we wanted. So I have to credit my father also with doing that. And when my father's company was on strike for a while, my mother had to go back to work. So for a while, she was the only breadwinner in the family. So circumstances sort of forced that on her. That was definitely not her choice.
So what drew you to teaching?
I'm sorry?
What drew you to the teaching profession?
Okay, I knew I wanted to be a teacher from when I was in 4th grade. We would play school at home, and I always asserted that I would be the teacher, and because I was the oldest of the 6 children, I could sort of boss them around. And also, we played school with our friends, so sometimes with my friends I would be a student.
Okay. Were you a student of social studies then, or you waited till later to teach?
Yeah, I think I was more drawn to English then because I did love reading and writing.
Enjoy watching the students succeed?
Oh, absolutely, positively. And I would tutor when I could, and I always offered that after school to students.
So it's interesting, in those days, Kiwami was till 9th grade, correct?
Yes.
All right, and then the high school had 10th, 11th, 12th.
Yes.
And even now, I believe that there's a committee looking at a potential realignment and redistricting again in the Union school system.
That's right. And we have a meeting of that group on March 27th, which I will be at.
Okay. Which leads me into it is fine to say you are everywhere, and that's what makes everywhere a good place.
Okay, thank you.
But you work hard in the township of Union, and you give back so much. Can you talk a lot a bit, I hope, about the organizations you're involved with and kind of what drove you or led you to do that kind of participation?
Okay, the primary one is the Union Township Historical Society, which is a 501c3 that owns and maintains the Caldwell Parsonage at 909 Caldwell Avenue, a little plug. We are all volunteers, so if you would like to visit us, please give a call and we will open our doors for you. Ironically, it was my brother David, who was an English teacher who was in the Historical Society before I was, and he said, "Barbara, you have to join. You're a history teacher." But I was really busy with my kids, and I guess I regret to say I didn't join until I retired. So I've been involved since 2009 with the Historical Society. I'm very active in my church, Holy Spirit in Union. I'm a member, not an officer, of the Friends of the Union Public Library. I'm an officer of the Diamond Circle Club, which is an organization that anyone who has been an employee of the Union Township Board of Education for 20 years or longer can be a member of. It's basically a social organization. We do give a scholarship to a graduating senior, a very small scholarship. I don't know off the top of my head. I should have written down a list, but I keep busy.
Oh, you keep busy.
Another thing, out of our immediate area, because Benedictine Academy closed and I was involved there, Father Edwin Leahy, who is the headmaster of St. Benedict's Prep, said that the girls, saying it kiddingly, in air quotes, broke into St. Benedict's Prep, and now there's a girls' division at St. Benedict's Prep in Newark. So I'm helping as much as I can with the girls' division there.
Talk more about that, because
Okay.
I think folks just associate Benedict's with the boys.
Yeah. So it seems that there's a thirst, a need for that kind of an education. So now St. Benedict's literally has, I don't want to say kindergarten, but I know from first grade through 12th grade, that is overseen by the monks of the Benedictine Monastery in Newark. And obviously the boys' division, the high school level, is much bigger than all the other components. But the girls' division is growing. They're providing sports for the girls. The first graduating class there was 2021. They've gone on to college. They've done very, very well. So I'm very sad that my alma mater closed, but I'm happy that the Benedictine tradition is continuing there.
It is nice, isn't it? And that Father Leahy never lets an opportunity go by.
No, he's unbelievable. He's a dynamo.
He is. He truly is. And a real, icon for the city of Newark and beyond.
Yep.
So talk to me a little bit about one of the things that I think it wasn't fun at the time, but it's fun to look back on, is the fight for the Hannah Caldwell seal.
Okay.
So tell a little bit about that.
All right. So many listeners may know that the seal of the County of Union depicts the death of Hannah Caldwell. Some people recently were not happy with that for different reasons. Some people say that it was because it was not a historically accurate depiction of her death. It shows her standing outside the house with her hands up, with a musket being pointed at her by a British soldier. The artist, it's a little bit of artistic license. The artist could not have depicted her inside the house, which is the way she died, because her image would have been the size of a head of a pin. So some people argued against the seal for that reason. Other people argued because it promoted gun violence. Well, it was during a war, and yes, there's gun violence in a war, and obviously I'm a proponent of history, so we wanted to promote that. And as far as we know, our county is the only one that has a seal depicting the imminent death of someone, but we think that makes it outstanding, and especially because next year is the 250th anniversary or birthday, a celebration of the birthday of our country. We're very excited to have that as part of our promotion.
So there was a move afoot, shall we say, to try to change the seal, correct?
Right, and we went to the commissioners' meetings, and a young former student of mine I'm very proud of, Kelly Komar, she put a change.org petition together. She spoke at the meetings. Her father, who's a member of the Knights of Columbus here in Union, he spoke. Charles Shalcross, who's a retired Elizabeth high school teacher, he's involved with the Union County Historical Society, he spoke. Johnny Rosser, who's the treasurer of the Vauxhall Historical Society, he spoke. So it really was a team effort, and we believe that we are successful. We think that that movement has sort of faded away.
Well, I can tell you I agree with you on that, but there was also a candlelight vigil.
Oh, that's right. I'm sorry, I forgot about that. Reverend Wanda Lundy, who was the pastor of the Presbyterian Church in Elizabeth on Broad Street, she let us have a vigil there, and you, Senator Cryan, were very instrumental in that. Mayor Chris Bolwedge of Elizabeth was also instrumental in that, and it was streamed on Facebook. I know nothing about the technology of that. Kelly did that, so that did help a lot.
No, let's face it, they learned a lesson about messing with a woman.
Okay.
Right here in Women's History Month. Talk a little bit about Holy Spirit, if you don't mind. I'm going to switch you back to another organization in a minute. But
not at all. I've been a member of that parish since 1963 when it was started by the Archdiocese. The church building was not built at the time, so we would have Sunday masses in the auditorium of Kiwami. So we would kiddingly say we were going to St. Kiwami for Mass. The daily Masses were held in the basement of McCracken Funeral Home, and also once the rectory, which just was a regular house on Suburban Road, was purchased, the daily Masses were held in the basement of the rectory. And then in 1965, I believe the church was completed. So that was very close to where I grew up. We only lived a block away on the other side of Morris Avenue, so we could walk to church, which was very convenient. I belonged to the CYO at Holy Spirit when I was in high school. I'm a lector there, which is the person who does the readings during the Mass. I'm also a Eucharistic minister. I was a member of the women's retreat team. I'm a member of a new team there called Beyond Baptism. I think that's it.
Oh, I think there's a little more than that, but that's okay.
Okay.
I do want to ask you, why, for our listeners here, why was Holy Spirit, in the 60s, why was it created? Was it an offshoot? Was there demand? Do you happen to recall?
Well, yeah, there was St. Michael's Church in Union, but it became overcrowded, which now is so ironic because so many churches are closing. But the Archdiocese saw a need for a new parish and a new Catholic school. Unfortunately, our school at Holy Spirit has closed, but the building is being rented by the Union County Ed Services Commission, thank goodness. So at least it's being used as a school.
Yeah, it's nice to see it.
Yeah.
So church and faith, obviously, of great importance in your life.
Yes.
Teaching and leaving in the next generation in a better place, clearly part of your life.
Yes.
Right. I have to ask as well, though, but you make yourself available at events. I see you at Chamber of Commerce. I see you at business events. As we tape this, I smile because I saw you at the Union County St. Patrick's Day Parade on Saturday, the dedication for Tim Ombacher. Right, and then I saw you literally carrying the Bible, carrying the gospel up at 5:30 Mass.
Okay.
All right. It just seems to me you're one busy lady.
That was a busy day, and Jim Masterson, who's the executive director of the chamber, will be glad that you reminded me. I'm one of the vice presidents of the Greater Union Township Chamber of Commerce. It's called Greater because now it not only includes the Township of Union, but it also includes Roselle Park, Hillside, and Kenilworth. And every once in a while, because I don't want to be my history nerd person all the time, I tell the people from those towns that you're coming home because those towns used to be geographically part of Union, and then they seceded from Union. So they're coming home in a way.
Well, we're celebrating a history month, Women's History Month, in one of the most historical towns in New Jersey.
Right.
Union founded in 1808.
Yes.
Right. And then do you happen to recall, I'm not putting you on the spot, former history teacher, but Kenilworth, and do you have any idea when those towns actually?
Off the top of my head, I don't, but Tom Beisler, who's one of our trustees, will definitely be able to tell you.
And he will tell you what color shirt everybody was wearing when they signed the document.
Exactly.
Yes, Tom has a remarkable memory. So in the Chamber of Commerce, what changes have you noticed since it's expanded?
That there's so much more networking because the geographically the towns are small. They're near each other, so residents of each of those towns will shop in the businesses in the other towns. Yes, we'd like to patronize our own community's businesses, but there's cute little gift shop in Roselle Park that I patronize, and I'm sure the owner of that little shop has dinner at Mario's because it's just down Chestnut Street from where her shop is. So we try to promote each other and show that we can help each other rather than always be in a competitive stance.
Tell me a little bit. So you mentioned your kids, but you have a phenomenal husband. Do me a favor, share a minute on him. He's just the best. He's a great guy.
Okay, all right. So I don't know the correct way to word this, but Dennis and I are each the second spouse of the other. We both were previously married before, so my 3 children are from my first marriage, and his daughter is from his first marriage. We were actually fixed up, set up, this was before any dating apps, by my brother David and his wife Kathy, and another couple, mutual friends of theirs, whose names happened to be Dennis and Barbara. So it seems like it was almost fated to be. And in the beginning, my 2 older children were okay with that. My younger daughter was not happy about it at all, and she tried to sabotage our first date. But now they love him as if he's their father. They love their real father, their biological father, but they love him too.
Well, I'm lucky enough to know Dennis, and he's just everything. And he seems that he shares a lot of the same values that you do, the same organizations, and want to be part of the same kind of things.
Right. He's the treasurer of the Historical Society. He's the treasurer of the Friends of the Union Public Library. He comes to a lot of the chamber networking events with me. And I'd just like to put in a plug for BCB Bank, which is a member of the chamber. They're really helping us out tomorrow evening with a big exhibition of historical photos from the Union Township Historical Society. So we're really looking forward to that.
Okay. So I'm going to switch it back one more time on you. And that's the Historical Society.
Yes.
You gave the address, 909, and Caldwell Avenue, right? 909?
Yes.
909 Caldwell Avenue. But talk a little bit about the actual what's there, because if they're hearing our voice and they haven't been through, the many open houses that all the volunteers sponsor and do, and so much work that's done there, talk a little bit about what they can see.
Okay. In the front room on the first floor, there's the history of the role of Connecticut farms in the American Revolution. Really, it was a turning point in the war because that was with the Battle of Springfield in June of 1780. Those were the last major battles fought in the American Revolution. In the back room, we have a tribute to the Connecticut Farms Presbyterian Church and the Caldwell family. On the second floor, we have the children's activity room, which Kathy Arminio, a retired first grade teacher, stations herself in and has a lot of hands-on activities for really children of all ages. There's tri-cornered hat making for the boys and bonnets for the girls, but some of the adults like to do it too. In the bigger room on the second floor, we have a lot of the history of the later years of the Township of Union, but right now, because this year is the 80th anniversary of the end of World War II, we have a special exhibit which was done by our curator, Anita Centeno, about World War II, and Kelly Komar, whom I mentioned before, and her father, Lenny Komar, helped us with a lot of the exhibits that are in that room. And then the final room on that floor is late 18th century, early 19th century bedroom with a lot of artifacts. And then we have a secondary museum in the carriage house on the back of the property, which David Arminio stations himself in. And there's a lot of old farm implements, household implements, and totally unrelated to that part of our history, old TVs, radios, office equipment that were donated by the Jacobson store in Elizabeth. So we do a lot of networking that way for our collection.
Well, it is very cool and may not be direct, but it's really cool when
Right.
Dave starts pointing them out.
Right.
So think about it, you've done it all. You've established the next generation through your work and teaching. You continue to network people in business today. And you remind us today how important history is. If we can't learn from the past, we can't grow for the future.
Absolutely.
Barbara, it has been an absolute honor for this Women's History Month, for a woman who's made such a significant impact in the Township of Union and beyond. It's been my honor to interview Barbara La Mort today. Barbara, thank you for coming.
Thank you, Senator Cryan. My pleasure.
That's a wrap on this episode of A Cup of Joe, hosted by Senator Joseph Cryan. Thanks for watching, and until next time, stay informed, stay engaged, and we'll see you again for another cup.